What's happening, gang? It's your boy Retro back again with another reaction video. Yeah. Today we got another huge update. I know you guys can probably already tell that it is going down. Just by that title alone, you guys are definitely gonna want to check this one out. So it looks like that rules for thee but not for me approach for that corrupt New York Attorney General Tish James has now backfired on her in the worst way, as she has now been indicted by a federal grand jury, facing up to 60 years in the federal penitentiary, guys. And I'm excited to get into this one, so we're hop straight into it. All I ask that you guys please hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and without further ado, let's hop straight into it, folks. Check this one out.
New York Attorney General Letitia James has been indicted on criminal bank fraud charges. James is being accused of having falsified records to meet certain lending requirements and receive favorable loan terms.
All right, folks, so it's finally happened. We're seeing a complete turn of the tables, a dynamic shift, and now seeing that hunter become the hunted with that New York Attorney General Tish James. Got our friend Johnny MAGA here with the reminder photo from 2 Octobers ago where Tish James sat in that courtroom right behind President Donald Trump while he was being politically persecuted for these so-called falsified bank records. We all knew that this was a real political witch hunt coming from Tish James, and now it is all on her, all eyes on her. We got a couple of headlines to check out. This one from the New York Post. I just want to see how they're covering it and what is all inside of this indictment. This one from the New York Post saying New York Attorney General Letitia James indicted on federal bank fraud, false claims charges, and I'm not sure I like the way that they worded that, but let's check out what they had to say. Starts off saying New York State Attorney General Letitia James was indicted Thursday by a federal grand jury in Virginia on charges of bank fraud and making false claims to a financial institution that netted her nearly $19,000 in savings on a loan for a second home. And this all coming from the DOJ. Says the indictment was handed up in the Eastern District of Virginia, where former director or FBI director James Comey was indicted just on September 25th on charges of lying to Congress and obstruction of justice. This is another one to keep in mind. James Comey also has some mortgage fraud allegations that have been handed up to the DOJ. Would not be surprised to see an indictment coming from him in the very near future. A couple of them, honestly. Got a statement coming directly from that U.S. attorney, that prosecutor, Lindsay Halligan, on this case saying, quote, "No one is above the law. The charges as alleged in this case represent intentional criminal acts and tremendous breach of public trust. The facts and the law in this case are very clear, and we will continue to follow them to ensure that justice is served." And I really like the way that they're addressing this one. Lindsay Halligan using the same messaging and principles as that New York Attorney General Tish James, saying that no one is above the law and justice will be served in this case. Now, I want to flip quickly to James's response, her statement that she made following this latest indictment.
This is nothing more than a continuation of the president's desperate weaponization of our justice system. He is forcing federal law enforcement agencies to do his bidding. All because I did my job as the New York State Attorney General. These charges are baseless, and the president's own public statements make clear that his only goal is political retribution at any cost. The president's actions are a grave violation of our constitutional order and have drawn sharp criticism from members of both parties. His decision to fire a United States attorney who refused to bring charges against me and replace them with someone who is blindly loyal not to the law, but to the president, is antithetical to the bedrock principles of our country. This is the time for leaders on both sides of the aisle to speak out against this blatant perversion of our system of justice. I stand strongly behind my office's litigation against the Trump Organization. We conducted a 2-year investigation based on the facts and evidence, not politics. Judges have upheld the trial court's finding that Donald Trump, his company, and his 2 sons are liable for fraud. I'm a proud woman of faith, and I know that faith and fear cannot share the same space. And so today, I'm not fearful. I'm fearless. And as my faith teaches me, no weapon formed against me shall prosper. We will fight these baseless charges aggressively, and my office will continue to fiercely protect New Yorkers and their rights. And I will continue to do my job.
All right, so we got Big Tish sticking to her usual alibi that this is all baseless and abuse of power and unconstitutional coming from the Trump administration. We'll see how well that holds up in the court, what the judge thinks of it. Then it continues on this New York Post article saying that if convicted on both counts, James faces up to 60 years in prison and a fine of up to $2 million. James, 66, bought the 3-bedroom, 1-bathroom Norfolk, Virginia home in August of 2020 for roughly $137,000, most of which was financed with a $109,600 loan that prohibited it from being used as a rental investment property. And that right there allowed her to obtain more favorable loan terms that are not available for investment properties. And they noted in that 5-page filing that she saved approximately $18,933 over the life of the loan. When a Post reporter visited the Norfolk home in Virginia earlier in April, neighbors said that they had never even seen James at the property. Meanwhile, her income tax forms designated the home as a rental that had been bought in thousands of dollars in addition, or that had brought in thousands of extra dollars in additional income. Norfolk property records reviewed earlier this year by the Post shows that James granted power of attorney to her niece, Shamise Thompson Harrison, on August 17th of 2023, authorizing the purchase of the Virginia property, for which they secured a $219,780 mortgage. And I think they've got this wrong. I don't think Tish James, or she doesn't designate this as her rental home. She designates this Norfolk, Virginia home as her primary residence, if I'm recalling this correctly. But we'll continue on. It seems like they're wording this very, biased towards Tish James. They're trying to, cover her butt a little bit, in my opinion. But reading on, it says Thursday's indictment puts the timeline of the alleged bank fraud scheme from 2020 or August of 2020 to January 2024 for the purpose of influencing the action of OVM Financial. This is a Fannie Mae-backed lender upon an application for a loan. James represented a firm in a uniform residential loan application and related documents that the property, or the Piron property, would be used as a secondary residence. And right there, another misclassification from the New York Post. This was classified as her primary residence. If you go back and look on independent fraud investigator Sammy Antar's page, he's got a whole breakdown on this. We know that she put this down as her primary residence. We know, in fact, she was prosecuting President Donald Trump when she obtained this mortgage. She secured the loan. She was prosecuting President Donald Trump for falsifying bank documents or records in the state of New York. So this just wasn't possible for her to have a primary residence in Norfolk, Virginia, and be the prosecuting attorney general on the Trump case in New York. You have to live in the same jurisdiction. When in truth and fact, as James then knew, the property was intended and used as an investment property with no intended or actual personal occupancy or use by her. And this is all coming from that indictment. And then going on, it says federal housing regulator Bill Pulte referred James to the Justice Department back in April, suggesting that she had committed crimes including wire fraud, mail fraud, bank fraud, and false statements to a financial institution. James had previously called the allegations by Bill Pulte baseless, and we all know that's not going to hold up for long. James continued on saying that what we're seeing today is nothing less than a weaponization of the Justice Department to punish those who hold the powerful accountable. Okay, if that's what you want to call it, but we all know James believes that it's rules for thee, but not for me, and she's mad that the table has finally turned and it's her turn to face the madness. James is not going to win this case. I'll say that right now. It then goes on to say that James did win a civil judgment against President Trump's organization last year for allegedly inflating the value of his real estate empire. Then the president was ordered to pay $355 million in penalties, but successfully appealed in August to have the fine thrown out, which we all knew this was a charade case, a political witch hunt at best. Tish James there was no victims in the case. We can't forget that. No bank was complaining that President Trump had defrauded them, and no, that was not the case. Tish James made this all up. She picked a target, President Donald Trump, and then she found some charges to throw on him. It didn't make any sense. Then continues on saying James' office has appealed for a reinstatement of the judgment, which had grown to more than $500 million with interest. And then James came out saying that she strongly stood behind her office's litigation of President Trump's organization. And I'm trying to get down here into the rest of the good stuff. We seen that was Tish James' statement following her indictment, and we all know that's a bunch of baloney. She said everything but she's innocent in the case. She just keeps saying it's all baseless, and instead of addressing the fact this is fraud in black and white. We've got too much evidence for you to come out saying that this is baseless or a political witch hunt or retribution from the Trump administration. I need to start seeing some type of evidence that, you know what I mean, you didn't mean to do what you did, because it's all in black and white. You haven't said that one time. New York Post and continues on saying that the FBI investigators began the criminal probe back in May after Pulte's referral, which also contained allegations of James misclassifying her Brooklyn brownstone as having 4 units instead of 5. We can't forget about that property in Brooklyn. The misclassification there that was decades, almost 20 years, I'm pretty sure. I think it was 2001 all the way up to 2021. 20 years of James misclassifying this Brooklyn brownstone as having 4 units instead of 5 because she wanted to get a residential rate loan terms rather than a commercial, which would be the 5-unit classification. Anything 5 and higher is commercial. Anything 4 and lower is residential. So we know what James was trying to do here. She was getting a break there as well, and that could have given her more favorable long terms on the New York and the Virginia properties. It's coming from Bill Pulte. The Federal Housing Finance Agency has also made similar accusations of mortgage fraud against Senator Adam Schiff, what I told you guys earlier, for improperly claiming a home in Maryland was his primary residence. So he had one in Maryland and then he had one in California doing the same exact thing that Tish James was doing to cheat the system. And we're going to see an indictment coming for him very soon. I don't believe that he's going to get off the hook and Tish James is, going down for this. Everyone should be held accountable, and especially in the eyes of Tish James. And the New York Post concludes this article saying that Eric Sieber, who preceded Halligan as the U.S. attorney, resigned just last month after declining to bring charges against Comey and James. We've seen President Donald Trump got someone in there who was worth a quarter, is actually going to, seek justice against these criminal and bad actors like Tish James. And it seems like we've got a full dynamic shift coming from Tish James. She is not so big and bad, rough and tough anymore. I mean, we can't forget the way that she was speaking. She was up on her high horse, constantly throwing all those rocks, throwing all those stones at President Donald Trump, but she's living in that glass house and now it's coming right back to haunt her. I want to show you guys just a flashback clip of the way that, Tish James, a reminder, the way she spoke for those who were feeling a little bad that maybe Tish James is being targeted in some type of way. No, it's not that she's being targeted. She brought all this spotlight and attention onto herself by viciously coming after President Donald Trump for a victimless crime, but yet she was doing the same exact thing, actually committing the crime knowingly behind the scenes. So I want to show you guys a little flashback before we get into the rest.
My mission is clear. I'm focused. I'm prepared. I'm ready. I've been trained by the best. I went to Howard University that overturned legal segregation in this country. I've been taught in those classrooms where Thurgood Marshall once taught. I'm not afraid of no president. Donald Trump, we're ready for you. We're coming for you. We're standing up for you. We're fighting on. We're not going down silent. Victory, my friends, is clear. It's now. And I'm not waiting 4 years. I'm waiting 2 until a speaker by the name of Hakeem Jeffries comes to bring us some rest. Come on, ladies. It's up to us. We saved this democracy before. We'll save it now. Let's go.
All right, guys, so we've seen in that flashback, Tish James's mission was clear. She was going to get President Donald Trump. This is what she ran and campaigned on. She's going to get him no matter what, and that's exactly what she did. And instead of finding the crime or having the crime and then finding who was guilty of it, she found the person, picked him, hand-selected President Trump and said, hey, we're going to find a crime that fits your description and we're going to slap you with it. And now she's paying for it. I mean, she was dirty the whole entire time. And to make matters worse, I want to cover this. We got mainstream media outlets, specifically the left-wing ones, coming out and trying to cover for Tish James, saying that what she did was not wrong, and all Americans commit mortgage fraud. I want you guys to see this is MSDNC and CNN. They've completely lost it. Once again, their hypocrisy shines bright.
But listen, there is a tell that there is no prosecutor who signed the indictment or joined her, right? To your point, prosecutors want to take home big cases. In this case, it was like hot potato, hot potato, hot potato. Nobody wants to touch it. And that tells you the weakness of the charges.
So according to this MSNBC guest, the claims for mortgage fraud against Tish James are weak because no prosecutor or AG joined Halligan on this complaint. They are so quick to forget the AG James brought up the complaint against President Trump without any additional signatures joining her. Such hypocrites, and that's exactly what this is. And they're talking about playing hot potato with a case. That's what happened with that Frankenstein case that we seen Alvin Bragg resurrecting and bringing against President Donald Trump. If any case was weak or flimsy, it was that one. And then, of course, we got CNN. They're so out of touch. They're also coming to Tish James's rescue, trying to cover for her. And this right here just doesn't make any sense. Listen to this. This is a flashback versus now, the comparison when it was President Donald Trump they were speaking on versus now that it's Letitia James that got every excuse in the book for why she shouldn't have been charged or why she shouldn't have been indicted. Check this out.
Trump did acknowledge that there could have been a mistake on his financial statement when it came to the value of his Trump Tower apartment, but he said that's why his statements included disclaimer clauses. Quote, there's a disclaimer clause where you don't have to get sued by the Attorney General of New York. Is that in any way a legitimate defense?
No, the judge already found it wasn't. The judge said, listen, you just can't offer miscalculating or wrong and misleading and fraudulent information and then say, wait, just kidding, do your own due diligence here. You have to be able to rely on what's actually being said. So the judge already resolved that issue. Now, what he's trying to do, though, is suggest, and you can't have both worlds, Jake. He can't on the one hand say he's in control of everything, on the other hand say, look, everyone else told me this and I handed it over and delegated. Both can't be true on a fraud trial.
They have to prove that it's done knowingly. And so
if it's a mistake that's actually relevant criminally, it has to be if it is a mistake and the person says, look, it's obviously a mistake, here's evidence it's a mistake, then you can't prove intent, and that's important.
They've acknowledged, Letitia James seems like there was an error on a power of attorney form. They would try to argue that that was no intent of wrongdoing if she was presenting throughout, and the bank itself did not feel it was defrauded because they had the correct information despite one false document.
Well, Jake, the key question, assuming this is in fact a mortgage fraud case, is whether Letitia James intentionally and specifically made a false representation. So as Kara said, now they're going to have to prove their case to a jury eventually beyond a reasonable doubt. And if this is a mistake or something that was done inadvertently, that's not going to be enough to support a criminal charge against Letitia James.
So when it's President Trump, of course, it's his intention to defraud the banks, and the banks don't know anything and they don't have to do any due diligence as far as what he's reporting. But when it's Tish James, it's, oh, she did not intend this. They have to prove her intent to get over on the system. I want to know which one is it they truly need to make up their mind, because I mean you can't play both sides. I want to know, and I believe this is arguably one of the worst clips I've seen, as we now have a CNN anchor claiming that it's very typical for Americans across the country to commit the same exact mortgage fraud and they're never prosecuted.
Aside for a second, what Tish James, and again, we're still getting the details, but if it's related to this mortgage issue, I mean, this is something that everyone in America, or many people at least, if you're lucky enough to be able to buy a house in America, you deal with this, right? The federal government doesn't go after all of these people for doing this.
Oh my God, I'm trying to keep it together, you guys. I can't believe this is how far we've come, and that's why I wanted to show you guys these left-wing media outlets and their response to the indictment on Tish James. It just seems like they're making every excuse up under the sun as to why she should not have been indicted. Now they're coming out saying that all Americans do this, and this is typical. If you could buy a home in America, guess what? You're committing mortgage fraud as well. No, that's not how this works. There's clearly a two-tier system of justice for these folks on the left, and they're not used to all the same rules applying to them. But we got that superstar CNN host, Scott Jennings, coming absolutely going off on, this so-called selective prosecution that these loonies on the left are claiming this is.
Well, the implication that I don't support the Constitution that you made notwithstanding.
I did not say that.
Excuse me, of being an
He's
original.
just famous for being a constitutional originalist.
Here's what I think. If Democrats like Slotkin are going to come out today and whine about selective prosecutions over Tish James, her entire career is built on the selective prosecution of one man. Now, I also believe what Elliot said. There's a process here. Everybody gets their day in court. Obviously, a grand jury saw enough evidence to bring charges. We don't know what they are, but a grand jury looked at this and says, okay, there's something here. She gets to go to court just like Comey, just like anyone else. But to me, it's just not going to fly to boo-hoo over selective prosecutions on this particular person who promised in her campaigns, who went after him on things, as Jonah said, that had no business ever happening, if not but for the man's last name being Trump. So I'm not going to.
How is that not a two wrongs make a right argument?
I'm not saying it's right or wrong. I'm saying she gets her day in court. I'm saying a grand jury saw enough evidence to bring charges, and I'm saying she gets to go to court and tell her side of the story, and then we'll see what happens. But I'm just arguing the political debating issue here. Democrats are going to say, this is the first time we've ever had somebody go down the road of selective prosecutions on her. Give me a break.
No, I agree with that.
Oh my, and that is exactly why I can enjoy the takes of that superstar CNN host, Scott Jennings, because he's going to call it straight down the center, no matter which side of the aisle you're on. And right there, he's saying this is no selective prosecution. This is simply, someone having their day in court, and everyone deserves to have that day. We're not saying that Tish James she has to go down, but we just seen a federal grand jury saying there was enough evidence to indict her. So let's let her have her day in court. That's all we're saying. And it just doesn't make sense that the loonies on the left are so quick to say this is a political persecution and this is so unconstitutional before she even has that day. And now what's next, folks? That's the question I feel like everyone's asking themselves. What's to come next? I'm going to let Tish James explain what she believes in her rules and values book should come next for herself. She was speaking on President Donald Trump, but I feel like the same rules should apply across the board. So let's see what Tish James has to say.
Mr. Trump and the Trump Organization saved an estimated $150 million by receiving favorable interest rates that were only provided based on the false and misleading statements of financial condition. White-collar financial crime is not a victimless crime. When the well-connected break the law to take in more money that they are entitled to, it reduces resources to working people, to regular people, to small businesses, and to all taxpayers. Everyday people cannot lie to a bank about how much money they have in order to get a favorable loan to buy a home or to send their kid to college. And if they did, the government would throw the book at them.
So there we have it from Tish James on what she believes should happen next, where she states that white-collar crime is not a victimless crime. And if this was an everyday American, everyday citizen, guess what was going to happen? They're going to get the book thrown at them. And I think the same rules should apply to Tish James. She shouldn't get some special set of rules or laws for her simply because she is the serving New York Attorney General. No. The same rules that apply to us or should be the same rules that apply to her. So I'm very excited to see how this one plays out. And I just want to, refer back to that message from Tish James. I feel like this has been ingrained into our head. Also from, just left-wing media outlets and these loonies in general. They've been stating this nonstop. So I'm going to play this message one more time for the folks in the back who haven't got it yet.
My message is simple. No matter how powerful you are, no matter how much money you think you may have, no one is above the law. And it is my responsibility and my duty and my job to enforce it. The law is both powerful and fragile. And today in court, we will prove our case. I thank you all for being here. And again, justice will prevail. Thank you.
Her message is clear. No one is above the law. justice will prevail. I'm very excited to see the way this one plays out. But you already know this whole indictment of that New York Attorney General Tish James has the internet in a frenzy and uproar has sparked. So I want to check out the response from folks on X. Let's start off on this one. This is from our lovely AG, Pam Bondi, tweeting out, reminded us that there is a one tier of justice for all Americans. And she's referring to that two-tier system of justice that these loonies on the left thinks applies to them. They think that the rules are only for us normies and they don't apply to them. And that's just not the case. And I'm glad we get this reminder from Attorney General Pam Bondi. We got Chicago One Ray also coming with a quick reminder that Adam Schiff, Shifty Schiff, is also under investigation by Ed Martin for mortgage fraud, guys. So Letitia James got hit by the indictment just yesterday, and it's only a matter of time before Adam Schiff gets his day as well. My vote counted because this is exactly what I voted for. Oh my goodness, look at those beady eyes. Oh my, you could see he's shifty, he's nervous. Pencil neck shift is definitely nervous. He's seen it just come down the pipeline for Tish James. He knows who's next up on that block. It's him. It's definitely him. And we got Marcus Patterson here on X tweeting out saying, if irony has a face, it's Letitia James. And that's definitely a fact. You got to think the way that she came after President Donald Trump, for so-called falsified bank documents, saying that he defrauded the banks. Even the banks are reaching out, vouching for President Donald Trump, saying, hey, the same folks who gave him the loan saying, hey, we don't feel like there's been any foul play. Matter of fact, President Donald Trump has paid us back in tenfold plus some. He has not, defrauded us. But yet Tish James was doing the same exact things behind the scenes, thinking that no one else is going to go check their closet for the dirty laundry and the skeletons. No, it's all coming out. That's exactly why you don't throw those stones living in a glass house. Appreciate you, Mark Patterson. Last up, we got MAGA voices here saying Letitia James will be going to prison soon, and I believe so. In this picture right here, it is just one that just warms my heart. Now, I hope President Donald Trump shows up to court for Tish James. I'm pretty sure it's later on this month. October 24th is her first day. I'm trying to get in my head, but we're definitely going. If they got cameras in the court, I'm gonna try to live stream it. But I hope President Trump does the same exact. This is gonna become a meme. The way that Tish James showed up every single time President Donald Trump appeared in court during that case for so-called falsified bank documents or records, she showed up and kind of mocked him, stared him down, treated this as like a celebrity appearance or something like that to try to gain fame or notoriety based off of prosecuting President Donald Trump. I hope he shows up the same way that she did. Yo, there we have it, guys. Oh my goodness. We're finally seeing justice being served in that case of that corrupt New York Attorney General Tish James, as she has now been indicted by a federal grand jury on 2 counts, facing up to 60 years in the federal prison. Up to $2 million in fines could be paid as well. I mean, this is what we asked for. This is what I voted for. We need to see more of this. Well, we got Bonnie Willis still on the list. We got Jack Smith still on the list. We got Alvin Bragg still on the list. We can't forget those judges as well. I mean, this is just the beginning. I feel like this is the tip of the iceberg. I can't wait to see more folks go. We got James Comey. He's about to go down. We got, Shifty Adam Schiff. He's about to go. We got so many folks that, they need to see their day in court. Just like Scott Jennings said, I'm tired of these folks thinking that they can get away with these crimes, but yet they're coming down so harshly on folks that oppose them or not sharing the same political viewpoints. It's really sad. It's really sad to see. And this one right here, guys, I'm not going to lie, this one is going to set the tone for folks that come afterwards, after this New York Attorney General Tish James. They're going to look back on this case and reflect before they think to bring some, selective prosecution, some political prosecution against the next sitting president or anyone that opposes their political viewpoints. But guys, I'm definitely excited to, catch any updates that come for this one. I'll bring them right here with your boy RetroStef. Guys, like I said, the next case or next court date isn't up till October 24th, I want to say, but we'll definitely be following that very close. You know how we've been following this thing from the beginning, back when she was prosecuting President Donald Trump. So we're definitely going to follow her case as well very closely right here with your boy. But please, guys, hop in that comment section. Comments are open. I'm excited to hear what you guys are thinking, your thoughts on this case. Also, make sure you guys please hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. If you enjoy more content like this, catch you guys on the next one.